Hello YouTubers, I'm back again today. I know, 2 for 1 for once. Well, I received an email today and it was in my inbox and I just thought I'd respond to it. Now, I'm going to do my best to be fair to the person who wrote this. It doesn't appear that English is their first language. They make a few kind of grammatical errors, so I'm trying to give this the fairest possible reading that I can. But we're going to go ahead and give this a shot. Now, they say they want to ask me 3 questions. However, they list 5, but one of them really isn't a question at all. They do have 4 actual questions, though. Now, I'm not going to attempt to read the entire wall of text that they emailed me. Frankly, there's no real need for it. The person who sent it to me, by the way, is someone I believe his name is Quranresponse. And he prefaces this saying that one atheist guy asked him 36 questions about Islam and God and his creation. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't care about that. I really don't. Just because someone else asks you 36 questions doesn't mean I'm going to want to ask you any of those questions at all. But I am going to respond to the questions he asked me. Now, picking the 3 wasn't easy, but we're going to give this a shot. The first one, he presents us hypothetical scenario of research someone could undertake, which is take 50 newborn infants, put them in a place far away from adult contact, simply supply them with food, and without being seen or heard, how would they learn to speak? In order for the baby to speak, he needs his parents to teach him their language, what's good for him, what's bad for him, and they will teach him their religion. And if you notice, any baby soon, he starts to speak, he starts to ask questions like, what is the name of this? What's that? What is God? Is it dangerous? Now, I don't view that so much as a question as a scenario. And I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit. The scenario is you take 50 infants, put them someplace, don't teach them anything, and what will happen? Now, his scenario has 2 things. First, he says they won't speak at all. That you have to teach them that, you have to teach them religion. But it seems to be saying that even if you don't teach them, it will. And the reason why is because it comes to his very first question. His first question is, what language would these babies speak? Well, my response to that is, he seems to assume that without being taught a language, a child will simply speak one that we would understand. Now, I'm unaware of any research to support that conclusion. If you can point to some where a collection of infants are treated that way, first of all, I'd love to hear about it. It's child abuse, in my opinion, though. But we do have language centers in our brain which look for structure, and this group of children, even only having themselves to learn from, I believe they would form a very rudimentary form of language. And just as we see ancient languages, written languages, lacked certain things that modern languages have, for instance, punctuation, capital and lowercase letters, vowels in some cases. This spoken language would probably be something like that. It would lack the nuance and lack some of the capabilities and lack some of the structure of a modern language. But there's no reason to think that 50 human beings all coming together would not develop some type of language amongst themselves. So I don't think they'd speak a language that we know unless we taught it to them. But I do think they'd learn to speak a language of some type. Next, what religion would these children be? Would they be Jews, Christians, Muslims, or atheists? Well, first of all, I think they started as atheists. Because, as you already said, children have to be taught a religion. If they have to be taught a religion, then that means they're not any religion of themselves. Now, given the incredibly large variety of religions, not all of which have the beliefs in various myths he listed. For instance, he listed, what is this? He listed, would there be Satan, heaven, hell, would they pray to God, would they bury their dead body after death, which I thought was an odd phrasing. But they're not necessarily going to have all those things. Not every human society has had those. Not every human society buried their dead. Some left them out. You know, he's taking certain things and assuming they're universal, and they're not. Not every society has something like a hell. Not every religion does that. So there's no reason to conclude that they automatically would. There's no reason to conclude the child would simply ask, well, what's heaven? Well, no, they ask heaven because someone tells them about heaven. Next question he asks, because he asks that. First of all, this is a very macabre experiment. I don't think the children would be asking that. But his next question is interesting in that regard. I thought that was an interesting question. What religion would they be? I think they'd form some type, because if we don't teach them anything, human beings look for patterns. Human beings look for models. They want to know answers. They want predictability. This is why so many religions have so many things in common as far as saying that gods control the weather, gods control the crops, gods control fertility. All these things that human beings wanted to have answers to, religion was some of the first answers to that. Doesn't mean the answers are right. It just means they were the first answers. And that's one reason why I said why we see so many similarities between religions. Now, next question he asks is, how did humans come to be? Now, this is a very complex question. It's not a simple one. If he wants an answer that's based on evidence, I'd tell him he needs to research the theory of evolution, and it would probably be very enlightening. I don't think he's going to get a good answer from any religious text. Next thing he says, who taught the first man that there is a God? Well, that's an interesting thing. It's a barely concealed appeal to ignorance. And what he's saying is that since we don't know who taught the first human being, or who taught a human being the very first time about God, it must mean God did it. It's not hard to imagine where he's taking that, especially when he lists the Quran for so many things afterwards. But the point is, even if we don't know, not knowing an answer to something doesn't mean the answer gets to be whatever you want. Now, I have to say this, and it's not very nice. He then goes into listing a huge amount of information. He says it's from the Quran, and what its answer is to all this. And actually, it's much further than that. And it's a wall of text, and frankly, it's spam. I'd never talked to the guy before in my life, and he's sending me this wall of text as if it's going to impress me. Here's what I have to say to that. First of all, it's not impressive. So what? It's a collection of claims. A collection of claims to me is not impressive. Provide me some evidence that demonstrates these claims have to be taken seriously. Secondly, the Quran is a collection of writings from a man who we know was a pedophile. We know he was having dreams about marrying and being with a 6-year-old child. From the hadiths, we know he had sex with her when she was maybe 9. I'll be nice. I'll give you 12. This is a grown man having sex with a 12-year-old. That's a pedophile. So I automatically don't take this as necessarily a great book, considering the book says he is the ideal man for all Muslims to be like. And lastly, Islam has within it a dogma and a doctrine saying you can lie in order to advance the faith. Any lie is forgivable. You may lie to advance the faith. You may lie of omissions by simply not telling certain information, or you may just tell straight up falsehoods. So anything a Muslim tells me, if I cannot verify it independently, I already have good reason to doubt it. So I don't know if Quranresponse thought this would be persuasive in some way. It's not. I can't even say I appreciate him sending this to me, as the length of this leads me to conclude he probably just cuts and pastes this and sends it to different people. In fact, I'm gonna see something here live while I'm taping this right now. I'm gonna check out something. I have an idea that this information is cut and pasted from some website. So do a quick search on Google. Let's see what that says. Loading. And it doesn't seem to be coming up directly, but most of that information is coming up though in different formats. It's not impressive. It's the same as if a Christian quotes the Bible at me. It's a claim. You have to support the claim. So while some of the questions are kind of interesting, what would happen if we had children raising themselves, as a total, this doesn't mean anything to me. So I'm sorry, Quranresponse, you haven't actually made an argument here. all you've said are made lots of claims. Really, there's nothing to this. So, unless you have something to support what you're trying to say, what do you want me to tell you? Alright, YouTube. I don't know what to say about this guy. So, have a good day.